I'm upset with you because I don't agree with your politics or your fucking social stance or anything else about you. You suck. You're ignorant. I don't know. You don't know shit. And I'm going to fill up the news with everything to make you fucking crumble into this little ball of shit in the corner somewhere with no life as we completely try to destroy you while ignoring the deaths of hundreds of thousands of people. That about outlines mainstream media, doesn't it? You know, every time I turn on the news, it's this person did this offensive thing. This person said this, and it's, racist, or it's, sexist, or it's, biased against homosexuals or transgenders, or, we're so into this social unrest thing. And we're completely pissed off about the wrong shit, And you might be saying, well, that's all important shit. And it is. I do agree. But it's not the only thing that's going on. And quite frankly, it's not the most pressing matter. When you look at our health statistics, when you look at the amount of people dying around you, just you personally, take a look around you. How many people are you losing to preventable chronic disease? Heart disease, cancer, diabetes. All of these preventable with lifestyle, with diet. Proven at this point. I, without a shadow of a doubt, believe that a good diet will keep you away from those diseases. No medication. No 20-year treadmill, no death, no sudden death from those diseases. Now, I'm not saying that it completely will rule out the occasional, like it did back in the 1900s, when we died from infectious disease more than anything else. We've since conquered that. Lord knows we have enough fucking antibiotics now to kill just about everything. But when you break it down and look at around you, just at the people in your life that are, how many medications are they on? Are they obese? Are they diabetic? Do they have heart problems? Do they have blood pressure control problems? Are they hypertensive? Are they insulin resistant? Are they low energy? Do they have headaches all the time? Do they have asthma? Do they have allergy problems? Are they allergic to just about fucking everything that doesn't, I mean, when you look at it from that perspective, you realize just how sick we are. Yet this is ignored by the government. It's ignored by the medical community. The ones that are supposed to help us aren't helping us. They're making money. And the food industry doesn't give a shit about your health. They give a shit about making money and you buying more of their shit. So they're going to make it as addictive as possible. They're going to put as much sugar in it as they can fucking get away with. And the government's not going to give two flying fucks about it. Because of money. And we are dying because of money. No other reason. There are millions of people who would be alive today if it wasn't for this paradigm. And I'm going to give you a couple videos to watch, kind of as a homework assignment. You know, I'll do a little update on what's going on with me later for those who give a shit about that. But I recommend highly that you take 3 or 4 hours of your life this weekend and watch from cover to cover just these 2 links. I've actually watched about 4 or 5 different documentaries that all say the same fucking thing about this. And the fact that I have to go to like Netflix and YouTube and all of these other places to hear this stuff is alarming. The fact that there are doctors and nutritionists and respected scientists pleading for us to fix this after having observed probably tens of thousands of patients under their care succumb to these diseases to get unnecessary procedures and prescriptions to treat things that could just be addressed via the things that we've talked about on this channel quite often. And many of you have told me I helped you. I didn't help you. I brought your attention to it and you helped yourself. And we don't even have that going on in the mainstream media. There is a whole bunch of people who will never see this fucking video, that will never see the videos that I'm going to show you on this particular episode, because they're not looking for it. They, in their minds, they're happy to take their 5 medications to get through life, to pay out hundreds of thousands of dollars in medical costs over the course of their lifetime, ramping up exponentially as they age, that will never hear this message or the messages there. Why? Because they get all their information from social media and mainstream media, which, good luck trying to get healthy watching that shit. I've sat down almost on a daily basis to watch mainstream media and see what they're saying, because I like calling bullshit. And I like that they trigger me from time to time and allow me the chance to show them how stupid they are fucking being. And I'm sick and tired of it. I honestly am. Because I know somewhere there's somebody that hasn't woken up from that is still thinking their doctor's going to do what's best for them, that is still thinking that the government is looking out for them as far as nutrition, as far as medicine, as far as health, and nobody is looking out for them. Nobody. A few of us here out in internet land are doing our part to try and raise awareness, to try and spread the word that we're fucking up. Yet none of the people you would expect to protect you from this type of shit. The FDA was originally set up to protect us from the food industry, who was, back in the day, doing the same shit. Their formula hasn't changed. Let's make money. Who gives a fuck who we hurt in the process? Only now that has shifted over to the drugs and prescriptions. We went away from homeopathy, homeopathic medicine, from naturopathic medicine, and we went to allopathic medicine. Let's give them a pill. Let's give them the shots. Let's give them the surgery. Let's give them the pill. Let's give them the shots. Let's give them the surgery. Everything else is bullshit. Just this is the only way to heal. Preventative medicine means take some fucking pills now before you actually need them, regardless of the fact that this pill is going to kill X amount of people. Does it help somebody? And now, if you listen to this, you're going to be pissed off by the end of those videos. If you take the time to watch them, you are going to look at your medical care in an entirely new light, as I have. But I've been doing this a while. I've seen this shit before. I know that when I go to the doctor, it's at my peril. There's like probably a 70% chance that I'm going to leave with some new symptom that I didn't fucking have to begin with if I follow their advice to the letter. If I take the drugs they give me, if I go through that. So my whole object is to prevent me from even having to go see them. From even having to step in that fucking office and give them the opportunity to fuck me. And we need to stop that. We need to prevent, because if you go in there, you're going to be forced to, if you don't take care of yourself, if you don't address these issues in your life, sooner or later, you're going to be walking into the doctor with something that needs fixing. And they're going to give you the pill or the shot or the surgery or the extreme profitable procedures and tests to even figure out what the fuck's wrong with you. Some of which is completely unnecessary, but very profitable. And it is all broken down on these videos that are from people that have been doing this for years. You know, one of the primary speakers from one of these live streams is a cardiologist. He's the heart guy. One of the biggest killers. You know, and you know, there's some general practitioner that's prominent on there. There is a dietitian, basically somebody from several disciplines for your health and wellness, from the nutrition side all the way to the you're gonna fucking die, so we gotta cut you open side of the house. And all of them are saying we got a fucking problem with our medicine, with our governmental policies, and with our food environment. And every day I see these little news stories or these stories, they'll focus on things like Trump's fucking tweets. I could give two shits about Trump's tweets at this point. Yeah, he's the president, but he's not the one fucking us the most right now. I'm sorry to say that. That might even piss some people off. I don't agree with a lot of what Trump does. I'm not on the right or the left. I'm kind of like pissed off at everybody in the government because they're not taking care of us. They're not looking out for us. They're looking out for themselves. No matter what side they're on, no matter how passionate they sound about our well-being, they're playing to our outrage, they're dividing us, and they're not taking care of our fucking health. And we are dying to the tune of almost 1 million people a year from preventable diseases. Not to mention the people that are dying specifically from prescription drugs that they shouldn't even be on. But they're on because it's encouraged. Because the studies say that this gives you a 1% greater chance of not fucking dying, so you might as well start taking it now while you're still healthy. You know, which is what has been said about statins, by the way. So what I'm here to tell you is we've been pissed off and divided and outraged by the wrong shit. We need to start getting outraged about our food environment, about industrial agriculture, from not just the vegan side, who thinks that the animals are bad, but I'm talking about our chemically produced, GMO'd to death fucking plant crops that have destroyed the landscape as well, that have tainted our food environment on every level, even in the organic sector, as some of these chemicals have polluted the environment to the point where it is literally everywhere in the rain that's falling on the organic crops, where we're looking at an epidemic of autism that is unheard of, that in less than 10 years is set to affect 1 in 3 children. Why that isn't on the fucking news every day, I'll never fucking know. Every once in a while you might see something, but we're not talking about it. Why? Because that is asking a question that will ultimately lead to an answer that is not profitable to some industry. How profitable is it going to be when we're all sick and can't work? How much money are you going to make when the entire fucking thing collapses because there's not enough healthy people for you to kill anymore? To where everybody's in the healthcare system from fucking cradle to the grave. How is that going to work? How are we going to fund that? Where are we going to get the money? Are we just going to pull money out of our ass? Are we going to invent? Are we going to write checks that 20 generations down the line might get paid? Probably not. And we really just need to stop this stupidity. And a great many of you who watch my channel are already fed up with it. You've already come here because nobody is helping you out there. The government isn't giving us good guidelines. The doctors aren't giving us good advice. We're having to go in and educate them more often than not on what's healing us. And that it doesn't have anything to do with fucking pills or surgery in most cases. Now, I'm not saying that there are not occasions to where we should turn to medication or surgery. They should be, we have the technology for those things. But there should be the last resort when everything else has failed. When we have exhausted all natural or healthy eating ways of dealing with something, only then should you consider a drug, and you should be very careful on which drugs you consider, on what you put into your body that could kill you. It is atrocious. Not only our food environment, but our pharmaceutical environment. It is littered with drugs that are more likely to kill you than cure you. And that don't cure you, they just treat the disease. They make money by you having to keep taking them to live. How many people you know are on a drug that they're going to be on the rest of their life, or they'll die, supposedly? That is the thing that was told about statins, and this cardiologist said that's just not true. 1 in 10,000 people might die if they stop their statins. 1 in 10,000. That's better odds than, going to play bingo at the local casino. It's fucking ridiculous. And I'm pissed off about it. I'm triggered about that. That's what I am most triggered about. I'm not triggered about whether there's a Republican or a Democrat in the White House. I'm not triggered about, there's so much going on that sucks right now on the political landscape. But this problem has been around a while with multiple different parties in power and has not changed. And I don't think anyone on the current political landscape or even future political landscapes is even looking to rock that boat. That's a lot of money. There's a lot of money changing hands on this. So who's left to give a fuck about us? Who's left to care what we do, how we live, to give us some guidance, some proper guidance on how to be healthy, on how to not end up in the medical treadmill that will take our money. Look at how much of our economy is medical now. And sooner or later, that's going to give way. When you add in the debt and all the other problems people get into financially, and then you throw the fact that their health is gone, that they've hit the end of their health span and have to rely on the medical and pharmaceutical industries to survive, and they give damn near every fucking penny extra they have and every penny that is out there, for social programs, for medical that everyone pays for, the whole insurance model. Why do you think insurance is so fucked? Why do you think they're trying to cut all of this extra shit? I'm not trying to glorify the insurance companies. They're just as crooked as everybody else in my book. But they're facing it too. They're the ones that are getting raked over the coals financially, and many of them have pulled out and moved on to other things. And the ones that stayed gave you these unreasonable deductibles that pretty much only cover some kind of catastrophic event. Barely any coverage for chronic disease because they know they can't make money if they cover chronic disease. So in turn, you're going to pay upfront thousands of dollars for these drugs. $1,000 a month for insulin. That's completely worthless to be on insulin, in my opinion, if you can control it with your diet. Now, if you can't control yourself and you're eating carbs, then yeah, you need insulin or you're going to die. But if you can exert a reasonable amount of willpower and go through all the problems of dealing with this hostile, unhealthy food environment we find ourselves in, and you do your homework, and you can get off of all of that medication, all the insulin, it can go away. I'm not saying it goes away quickly, but it's been shown that it goes away. And you're not necessarily cured, you're in remission. If you go back to the carbs, you're going to have to go back to the pills. You're going to have to go back to the insulin. Because some of the damage, I believe, is irreparable. I have not seen significant evidence in anyone that I've personally helped with their diabetes. And I'm not seeing any evidence online of a permanent cure. Like, I don't see a diabetic that can do this and get their blood sugar and A1C in the normal range and then go on like a carb load, even a healthier carb load, and not see a rebound blood sugar spike, which tells me that pancreas has some damage to the beta cells at that point. And that's just one disease. We're looking at a whole spectrum: cancer, heart disease. All of these things have skyrocketed over the past 40 to 50 years. And it doesn't take a rocket science to figure out why that is. What did we do in the past 40 to 50 years with our diet, with our health care, that has led us this way? We have increased our dependence on medication. We are on more drugs now than ever. Not even just for chronic disease, but the mental health. Look at how many people are on some kind of mental health drug. And having explored the nutritional side of that myself, I know I don't need a mental health drug. I need food to be a certain way in order to get rid of depression and anxiety. And I've demonstrated it in myself. I've had thousands of people tell me they've seen similar results in their life. And that, to me, is convincing enough when you put it on the landscape of this corrupt scientific community funded by industry and this medical community that, quite honestly, doesn't know their ass from a hole in the wall other than giving you the pill that they saw in the nutrition, or the medical journals that are pretty much just magazines that are advertisements for big pharma. And it's disheartening. It really is. It disturbs me deeply. So I want to give you some clips from these two videos to take away from this. Then I'll give you a little update on me, because there's a little bit going on with me that I feel the need to share. The first thing I wanted to share, I actually watched this before this, that I learned about this live stream over the weekend, and I don't think the live stream was from this weekend. I think it's been reposted. I could not find the original. Supposedly, I think it originally went out from Diet Doctor onto Facebook. I was unable to get to that. It was a little complicated to try and find the original source, so I just left it where I saw it. So the link that I give you is on Ivor Cummings' YouTube for that. But for this first one is something that just comes across. I get this shit in my feeds. When you watch enough of this shit, YouTube's algorithm's nice enough to pimp out some stuff. So I guess all the shit I've been talking about YouTube lately, at least they're still getting this right. So here's it's called Death by Medicine, a film by Gary Null. I don't know if this is the original post site. It doesn't have a lot of subscriptions, but it does have 500,000 views. I think that needs to be higher since, just in the United States, we got, 350 million people, not to mention worldwide. So if you have a way of sharing these to open people's eyes, or at least make them more aware of the situation, some people just ignore it anyway. But here, let's just listen to the intro to this. I found was a pretty good summary of the state of things.
Government is dominated by the pharmaceutical industry, and if it wants a drug approved, it will get it, regardless of the consequences to the American people.
When 50% of America has a chronic disease, something's wrong. It means we failed at our healthcare system. It means we
That's true. You don't have to look far to see that we done fucked up.
Have a disease care system.
Well, I don't think the public has begun to grasp the stranglehold of the pharmaceutical industry and the health insurance industry and the for-profit hospital industry and the nursing homes.
Drugs that have been said to be too unsafe to approve by the FDA.
And if you don't work on your personal health, your diet, and the way your lifestyle is, you end up stuck in that system. From the healthcare to the nursing home to the grave.
FDA's own medical reviewers have been approved over their objections and entered into the market, causing the very harms they predicted.
The FDA, in my opinion, has probably killed more Americans in this country than all the wars that the U.S. has ever fought combined.
The drugs themselves.
And you can figure these statistics out on your own by researching the death rates of preventable chronic disease or the death rates of particular drugs that have been on the market and continue to be on the market, all of which have a casualty rate. But is it acceptable, I guess, is the thing. Are we helping more people than we're hurting? And that's questionable based on the data that's presented in the live stream that I'm going to show you. But what can we do about it? Really, who do we turn to? Who's going to right the ship here? We can't right the ship of the medical community from the bottom up, other than just not going to the doctors, which... What if it's something that legit the doctors could do? I mean, how do we know at this point? Who's going to tell us? Who's going to give us the advice? We're left to guess based on our own knowledge. And a lot of people don't have a lot of knowledge with which to make a good educated guess on what to do about a certain health problem. It's fucking disturbing is what it is.
Cause death, disability, further symptoms, which typically are further treated with other drugs.
As an ethical issue.
And I've seen plenty of that, where they give you a drug, it fucks you up some more, so instead of taking that drug away, they give you more drugs. And then that problem just spirals out of control until you got this big fucking carton full of fucking drugs with the individual days and times of the day fucking on them. I've known people in my life that have a 7-day fucking pill box with a morning, evening, and all of that all sectored out, and there's like 4 pills in each one of those fucking things. Do you honestly think that you're gonna live a long, healthy life when you gotta do that? No, that's keeping you alive and taking your money before you die. And maybe, if you're lucky, it keeps you alive. A lot of people aren't lucky. And we need better policing of this. We need an agency that is not touched by any financial or governmental interests, that is completely autonomous to police this shit. That is immune from lobbying money, from elections, from all of that shit. That has their finances tracked to make sure that no one's handing them a check to make a certain rule. That is legit looking out for all of us. Nobody's looking out for us right now. Nobody. We have our vocal voices in the communities like we do now. Even doctors that have come out against this sort of thing. But in the end, there's no regulatory agency that is really looking out for us that I trust at this point. Maybe I'm wrong. Do you know of a government agency that is actively putting public health ahead of corporate profit, ahead of all of these big industries? Send me a link. I want to go fucking meet the motherfuckers and see what they're doing that isn't being done by the FDA or the USDA. These regulatory agencies that are supposed to be protecting us are actually providing more problems than they're protecting us from. And they're more driven by which profitable industry is affected than how many of us fucking die or succumb to the disease level that we have or have reached the level of obesity and diabetes we have. Doesn't matter. Even though it's pretty much basically known at this point, thanks to us spreading the word, that you can treat diabetes with nutrition and it does not have to be a death sentence. They still haven't gotten on board. Any diabetic who does 20 minutes of research now is going to figure this shit out. Problem is, a lot of them aren't going to fucking research it, or they're so addicted to or stuck in such a bad food environment that they can't even do anything about it. Or some of them are in the fucking hospital getting fed the wrong shit while getting pumped full of drugs, while getting shots.
They never think, gee, this is going to kill people, I shouldn't do it.
The pharmaceutical companies have one objective. That is not the health and safety of the individuals of this country, but the almighty dollar. The bottom line, making a buck.
There it is. That is the problem. How do we untangle our public health, our food environment from the almighty dollar? I don't know. I don't have a fucking answer to that. Do you? I can't think of a way for us to get out of this, to be honest with you, other than taking care of ourselves and doing our own thing, which is what I'm doing. Pulling back from relying on all of these externalities for my health and taking charge of my own health. That's the only solution I have, but I do know that that's not going to work for everybody. Not everybody's even willing to do that at this point. I have tons of friends and family members who, even though they know I talk about this shit, even though I bring their attention to these things almost to the point where they fucking hate inviting me to dinner or places or stuff like that, you know, and they just continue to do the same things we've been doing for the past 40 to 50 years. And they're on all kinds of medications, and they're having health complications and problems, and they just keep doing it. I don't know how to wake them up. I don't know how to get them to believe that some asshole like me is actually looking out for them, instead of the people they think are looking out for them who are actually looking out for the dollar. How do we fix that? I don't fucking know. Put an answer, maybe we can figure this shit out in the comments on YouTube. Why do we have to do this? Why do we have to come to the internet, learn for ourselves, fix our health, self-experiment, try and figure out what works and what doesn't, when these agencies and the medical community and the food industry should all be doing that and protecting us from this shit instead of protecting the big sweet dollar? And this is one of the fundamental reasons I've become minimalist, that I do believe in not buying as much shit and not making as much money to buy shit, because I don't want to support a system that is doing this. And I still am not perfect by any stretch. I fuck up regularly. I buy shit that maybe I shouldn't have been buying, and while I do live a smaller life than I used to, and I do so on a much smaller income than I used to, I could probably still refine it further. But I have definitely stepped back from that healthcare system. I have to go to maintain my coverage once a year to get a physical, and I do so. And I take that physical with a grain of salt. But they're not finding anything wrong with me. Ever since I started to do with this, my blood pressure was starting to get a little bit fucked up back then, 3 years ago. I was starting to creep into the pre-diabetic range in my blood sugar and my A1C. I was going, down a bad path, which probably by now, 3 years later, I probably would be 300 pounds. I probably would be diabetic, or at the very least strong pre-diabetic. I probably would have hypertension. I probably would have some form of heart disease at this point. And I probably would be in and out of the hospital regularly and on some form of medication. But because I righted the ship, because I chose to take the time to learn everything I could to be healthier than I was. Now, I'm not perfect, but I'm definitely at the top percentile of health of my age bracket right now. And I could argue that, and we're not talking and arguing in terms of fitness, we're talking and arguing in terms of medical costs. How much am I costing everyone or myself in medical costs? And it's minimal. I could probably afford on my low income to cover the once a year visit to get my labs and stuff. So the only concern for me medically is if something catastrophic happens, like a car accident or getting hit by a bus or, one of these other things that can happen to us in life. And that's why I continue to satisfy that requirement for me to once a year go in and get checked up. And I know during that checkup, they're going to try and sell me on shit. They tried to sell me on flu vaccination. They tried to sell me on, different classes that I need to take on, and they try to get you in more deeper to their system to get more checks to run up the bill. Because someone's paying the bill for my VA benefits. Someone is paying for that. I'm not thinking I'm just getting free medical. I'm thinking I traded 10 years in the military and got this as a benefit, and I'm very thankful I did. But I also know that not everybody had that opportunity or has that benefit, and they're suffering severely financially, and they're not nearly as healthy as I am, so they're having to spend an inordinate amount of time in the healthcare system. And I say this while I have a cold, which we'll get into a little later on how I deal with sickness that does happen in my life, infectious type stuff. So check out that. The link to that will be in the description. Death by Medicine. I found it very compelling. You will be pissed off by the end of that one. But if that's not enough to really make you take a good, strong look at shit, there's this that came to my attention. A couple of you did send me this link and ask me to pay attention to it, which is good. Keep sharing that stuff, but don't just do that for me. Do that for everyone you know that you think could benefit from it. A lot of us know some sick people in our lives, and they need to start paying attention. And maybe if they hear it enough, I'm not saying that you're going to send this and they'll magically start changing their ways, but if they hear it enough, they might give it its due. And maybe encourage them, tell them that don't stop here. Get out there, Google your ass all over the place and find all of this information. It is out there, and you have to sort through tons of bullshit to find it. But it's there. And you can't argue a lot of these statistics, or the trend that we're on, or the fact that there is indeed a crisis going on. And it is a crisis that could be an extinction-level event for us. 1 in 3 autism is going to be pretty hard on us going forward. 75% diabetes rate. That's happening in 10 years if we don't right the ship. That's going to destroy us. When you have more people sick and can't work than can healthily work and pay the bills, the whole fucking thing's going to crash. And that the only way to make money will be to work in the medical industry if you're healthy enough to. I don't know where we want to live in a world where the sole productive purpose is to keep us alive long enough to live in the world. We're going to lose a whole lot of iPhones in that case, Just saying. So, one of the prime speakers is Dr. Aseem Malhotra, whose name I'm probably butchering. He's clearly become an advocate in the health world. He's a cardiologist by trade. He's not the only person that speaks in this, which is why I recommend the whole thing, including the Q&A afterwards, because some interesting points get raised there. It is 2 hours long, so there's that, but I found it compelling. I did find that he did parrot some of the exact slides provided by Dr. Lustig when talking about the sugar fact, but here, let's play a small clip from
primary
this.
School, and the trends are getting worse. Obesity itself costs the NHS, National Health Service, about £5 billion per year. that's expected to increase. But actually, the bigger issue is type 2 diabetes. So the direct and indirect cost of type 2 diabetes in the UK now is about 20 billion pounds per year, both for treatment of diabetes, NHS costs.
That's a lot of money. You think they're going to care about our health when there's that much money at stake? That many jobs, that many houses on the hills, or big posh apartments, or stuff upon stuff and more stuff, and accumulating tons of shit?
And also lost productivity, indirect costs due to lost productivity, so to the economy. And that's predicted to hit 40 billion by 2035 if we do nothing.
So basically, some people are getting lots of money in the healthcare industry while productivity's dropped by almost twice as much. Interesting.
I think the most important thing, I mean, we'll talk about some of the dietary controversies shortly, but really the processed food environment is at the heart. The obesogenic environment is at the heart of this problem. It's become almost unavoidable to avoid sugary processed food wherever you go, whether it's...
And that's a true story. As someone who's been doing this for 3 years and been trying to be keto for 2 of those years, I can tell you sugar it's a minefield. If you're in the hospital, if you eat in a restaurant, you just don't know. I typically assume I'm being fucked when I go out to eat in some way. Even as careful and as much of an asshole I can be. Hey, can you take this off my plate? Hey, can you cook it this way? Hey, can you give me some real butter instead of that margarine shit that looks like butter that saved the restaurant $1 while they charged me $2? Can you, not do that to me? And I get the asshole looks or the what the fuck's wrong with you, or, all of the social stigma that goes with this. Yet it's hard. And as someone who's going to be doing some more road trips in the future, I'm going to bring to light how hard it is to eat healthily, ketogenically, in today's food environment in the United States. And I contend that environment has traversed to other areas. I just watched another documentary called The Magic Pill on Netflix. That was recommended by one of you. I'm sorry, I didn't prepare to talk about that, so I can't pull your name up right now. But, and I believe that one was the one that went over, the Aborigines who went back to their native diet and reversed these catastrophic diseases that have been killing them since they started to adopt the Western diet. And when you see that, it's almost heartbreaking. That here were a perfectly healthy people and they're losing, and they go into the stories of people dying from these diseases that didn't have to die from these diseases. And knowing what I know now and seeing that, I realize that these are people that were killed by this dogma, this ideology of food and profit in medical treadmills that are designed to churn out the dollars, but also designed to churn out the body bags and fill the graveyards with bodies of people that just didn't know better and had no opportunity to even really know better or opportunity to even do anything about it because they didn't have the food to do it. Or the food to do it was so fucking expensive. Like I went to get, I'm doing a carnivore experiment right now, and I've been trying to do it organically. And I got a pound of ribeye steak, which is the proper fat to protein proportion for us, and it has lots of omega-3s being grass-fed. And I went and got that, and it's $17 for like a pound. And I can eat a pound for a meal. So just the meat was $17. Thankfully, there's not much else to the diet. Eggs are still fairly cheap, even organic, but some people aren't going to do that. They're not going to spend $17 to eat one meal, especially when you're cooking it at home. That's pretty close to restaurant price to go in and having a shittier cut of meat prepared professionally for you. It's getting close to the price of going and getting a small prime rib at a restaurant at that point. which shouldn't be if I'm cooking it myself, right? But the policies in place subsidize the unhealthy factory farming and penalize the organic farmer. And that's something else that needs to change.
Whether you go to the petrol station, whether it's on the high street, whether it's in gyms and health clubs.
Yeah, how many people have been into the fucking Planet Fitness and seen the soda machine right by the door filled with Gatorade and soda and maybe a lot water if you're lucky. I've seen it where they had pizza day where you could have pizza on your way out, and they know the business model. Hey, if we keep them getting fat on the way out the door, they'll have to come back again tomorrow and pay their fucking monthly fee. Same principle. It's a great business model. Shitty for your health.
For me, and where my journey started, and what I find the biggest scandal, is that we've even allowed our hospitals to become a branding opportunity for the junk food industry.
True story.
Several years ago, when I started on this campaign, I remember operating...
Happened to my mother, by the way. She was hospitalized with her stroke, and they found the blood sugar issue, and they shot her full of insulin, and then served her shit food with sugar, with carbs, with all kinds of issues that ultimately just kept her blood sugar up to the point where they gave her insulin to keep it under control, and it marginally did that. She was still in the 130s, 140s with the insulin.
On a man in the middle of the night who'd come in with a heart attack. We'd done emergency keyhole heart surgery on him. He did very well, in his 50s, a little bit overweight, smoker. The next morning on my ward round, I'm actually telling him, you need to take these pills, including statins, religiously. I said, you need to stop smoking and you need to eat a healthy diet. And just as I'm telling him about following a healthy diet, he gets served a burger and fries by the hospital. And he looks at me and he says, Doc, how do you expect me to change my lifestyle if you're serving me the same crap, pardon my language, that brought me in here in the first place? And I looked around me, and I've been a very, I would call myself a foodie, if you pardon the term, most of my life. I like eating good food. I love cooking.
Consequently, some hospitals in the UK, I do believe, recently restructured that whole diet thing. And
I couldn't find any decent food in the hospital.
Hasn't happened in the United States.
I was working at, and most hospitals. But I also looked around at my colleagues. 50% of 1.4 NHS employees are also overweight or obese. That includes doctors and nurses and non-clinical staff, all to the same levels.
And there's no reason for that. These are the people that should know how to make you not be there. They should be able to fix you, and they can't even fix themselves. You would think that they would want to. They're just as fucked up as we are. And many of them don't even know it. I'm not saying that all doctors and hospitals are evil. I'm saying they're just doing the guidelines. They're following the procedures. They're doing what the drug companies told them would fix shit. They're looking at the research that the drug companies put out as pretty much an advertisement in the medical journals and saying, okay, well, I guess I should prescribe that drug when someone comes in. And a lot of that research is skewed, which they also go over heavily in this. This is a very good talk where they go over some of the flaws in the science and the problems with the published journals, so much so that they even at one point said that 50% of the studies that we've been throwing around on this channel for quite a while, 50% of them are wrong. 50%. You have a 50-50 shot of fucking up if you do something based on a study. That's a problem. That is a huge problem, because you get one of these wrong, and they even said it during this lecture. There was a guy that was convicted of putting false data into one of those studies in a journal, and it killed 800,000 people. 800,000 people dead from a drug based on a study with falsified data. And to my knowledge, the only person that went to jail for that was the person that authored the study, not the corporation that made the drug, not the executives that profited from the sale of that drug, and not the government agency that allowed it all to happen. So they had their scapegoat, and now we're the ones that paid the price to the tune of 800,000 people dead. I can't even fathom that amount of people dying from something like that. We get pissed off when, 2 or 3 people or 5 or 10 people get shot in a mass shooting. And we spend days and days analyzing it and talking about how to prevent it and arguing politics that could have prevented it. Where is that debate on shit when you have 800,000 motherfuckers? And I quite honestly didn't even hear about it until I watched that lecture. Why not? Why didn't I have that should have been a month of the news. 800 motherfucking thousand people dying from a drug, and I just had to hear about it during a boring ass lecture, and it was dry, not entertaining in the least, but very informative, and I still recommend it, and you might have to watch it in a few chunks if you fall asleep easily. But at the same time, to learn that 800,000 motherfuckers died as a result of that, probably only made one headline on one day on one little news network, probably local news network for wherever the motherfucker was. And, 9/11 dominated the news for years with 3,000 deaths. 800,000 people in just that case. We're not even talking about the people dying of preventable chronic disease at this point. That is that one specific drug from that one specific study that was falsified. So when people are throwing studies in my channel left and right, I'm looking pretty skeptically at just about every study I read at this point. And it's really hard to sort the bullshit out. In the end, we got to figure it out for ourselves, and that's kind of what I advocate. I try and take a combination of studies and anecdotal data and, things I've heard in common with people reporting success on things and clinical data and, stuff like that. But when you see something like that, how can you not be outraged? How can you not want to get something done about it? We need to do something about this shit, and we're not doing shit. I'm sitting here talking on YouTube. That's about the extent of my power, other than taking charge of my own life and trying to help those around me that even care to listen. A lot of people don't care to listen. They just want to go on with their lives. They want to have their pleasure. They want to have their sugar. They want to have their fucking pasta, and they don't give a fuck what pills they're going to have to be on to supplement that diet. And yet, some of those pills might be their undoing. Because some pharmaceutical company sold it to some doctor, sometimes directly paying them, other times doing it through studies which are skewed or uninformative or are painted in a light to make the drug look better than it really is, all of which has gone over in this lecture. So I highly recommend this, and you will be pissed off. I know I was by the end of this conference. And if you're not, there's probably no hope for you health-wise in the future. And this applies to no matter what diet ideology you follow. You can take something away from this. Unless you're a huge fan of the sugar industry and a complete believer in eat less, move more, and the traditional shit that these agencies have told us are the healthy way, all while our health is completely in shit. It's in shambles. And you're in denial at that point if you think that that's the way to deal with this. He even at one point does say during this lecture that exercise, and he's an exercise guy, he says exercise had absolutely nothing to do with obesity. It's all diet. That's not what they're telling us, is it? Still, to this day. I've been saying it a while, exercise don't mean shit in terms of obesity and health. You can be unhealthy and fit. See it all the time. So, now that I've done depressed everybody, I think it's important to point out that I'm not a fucking expert. This is all my opinion. Do your fucking homework. Don't rely just on me. Educate yourself. And the more you educate yourself, the more you empower yourself to pull out of this system that is destroying us, the more you take it upon yourself to learn about health and to take in the big picture and figure out what's actually helping people. If you know somebody that reversed some of this stuff, that did so without these pills, find out what they did. Share that shit amongst yourselves. If you have an illness and you're all pilled up and your illness isn't getting better and you've been pilled up a while, I would be researching the shit out of people that have the same illness and manage to pull out of it, especially if you're diabetic, and how they did it. And you're going to find that they did it through nutrition. Try out whatever they did. I'm not saying stop your meds and jump right in, but you can start to reduce your need for medication. Your doctor will wean you down based on your numbers. Be careful. It's hard to tackle this stuff without a medical professional on your side. I guess what I'm saying is that at the very least, learn this shit. Learn what you're getting into. If you're prescribed a drug, go out and learn everything you fucking can, including the mortality rates and success, the true numbers for that, not the relative risk ratios, which are bullshit, which they go over in that. And that's a very valuable lesson, by the way. Because there's all kinds of ways to present statistics and epidemiology in a way that makes it sound better than it really is. And we need to stop doing that. But the media's been doing that pretty regularly. Giving us these huge numbers for relative risk, but not giving us absolute risk numbers, which are much more benign in some cases in terms of nutrition. Like the whole bacon causes cancer thing, 70%. I think that was relative risk too. I'd have to look that up. We need to stop that shit too. The whole presenting data to amplify someone's belief instead of presenting it factually the way it really is. And statins only help 1 in 10,000 motherfuckers. And the question is, how much life do they buy for that? All the other side effects that come with that drug. He went on to say that stents, a surgical procedure, are done, and that, I think he said 70%, I don't know, quote me, watch the fucking thing. But a majority of those didn't need to be done, had 0 or maybe a 1% effect on outcome of heart attacks, having a preventative stent put in. Yet, pays the bills. It's the money. You're going to get all kinds of tests. You're going to get all kinds of pills, procedures, examinations. You're going to have to regularly go back to the doctor's office for an appointment to refill a 30-day prescription, also that they can bill you. They give you a drug, say you're going to have to be on it a long time to manage whatever. But you have to keep coming back for a doctor's appointment so that we can bill you for that doctor's appointment just so you can get a new refill. Tell me that ain't a fucking racket. My mother's a victim of that. For her pain medication, for her back problems. And if she doesn't go back, she doesn't get the pain meds. It's like holding a gun to her head. She doesn't want to. She wants the pain meds. She doesn't want to be in pain. And her pain has improved, by the way, with the weight loss from being keto, in addition to the blood sugar improvements, and they're pretty much reversing diabetic symptoms at this point. She's also experiencing less pain because she's not having to haul around as much weight on that spine that's fucked up. So, there's a ripple effect when you start to repair your health. Things you don't expect to get better start to get better. That's not profitable, is it? Who's going to make money off of that? The grocery store? Apparently, if you're eating organic. I don't know what to do about it, to be honest with you. On a political or social level, what we can do about it. All I know is we can take care of ourselves and maybe those around us that are willing to listen to our bullshit. But I'm not a fucking expert. I'm just a fucking asshole. Also, quick update. I've been sick the past 4 days. One of the first things that happened when I was sick, my mother was nice enough to offer me some medicine. Some, cough medicine. And I was like, no. First of all, I know cough medicine might give you maybe a 5% reduction in symptoms, if you're lucky. While causing who knows what else problems. And I'm like, no, I'm going to weather the storm. If I'm still sick a week from now, or if it gets progressively worse, then yeah, I'll go and see what I need to do. But, chances are no over-the-counter remedies, which are all designed for symptom-only treatment. There ain't no cures at your local pharmaceutical sitting there on the shelf that you have free access to. That would be a bad business model for the pharmaceutical industry. No, you're going to need a prescription if you want anything. But I absolutely want to give my body the chance to heal on its own. To the tune of, before I even think about going to a doctor for my illness, I'll fast. I'll do a long water fast just to see if that fixes it. I want to exhaust all of my natural healing abilities before I try and turn to allopathic medicine. That's my personal choice. Could it backfire and I just drop dead from some infection? Probably. Yeah, could. What is the likelihood of that? How many times have you had a cold that just went away, irregardless of the medicine you took? Or despite taking medicine, you still remain sick for like a week, 2 weeks. Turns out this shit just runs its course anyway. It's just whether or not the drugs make you feel a little better while it's going on. It's a difficult call. Now, for me, doing the carnivore experiment, I do feel that this experiment has been tainted by a couple of variables, and will need to be repeated at some point down the road, not right away. And those variables are me falling into the Erie Canal during that kayaking trip, exposed me to some serious bacteria. Hopefully it was cold enough that that wasn't a huge issue. And who knows what else in that water. Because I did notice a reaction after that. I felt like shit almost immediately. And then for the coming weeks, I had some weird issues. But I can't know for sure if my little spill into that nasty ass water or my carnivore experiment is the cause of the issues. Here's the issues. I'm sick. I don't get sick very often, so when I do, I pay attention to what I've been doing that may have led to that. And this is despite normally being exposed to the public, being out there, doing all the same things. Whereas the only variable that changed is my diet and the fact that I fell in that nasty ass water. Those are the two variables, and I can't rule out either one. So I cannot sit here and get on this channel and call the carnivore experiment a success on the front of health, based on the fact that I A, got sick during it, and B, had another reaction, which I'm about to show you or tell you. Right here on this arm is a sore. I do not know what caused it. It was itchy and shit. And seems to be healing or getting better, at least drying out to some degree, but something had a reaction there. It doesn't look like hives. I've had hives before. So it's not a full body reaction. It was just isolated to that spot. That was the only spot that had a reaction. I also noticed at one point during, I went to my friend's house and he had an Oculus Rift. And when I wore that for like a few hours, I broke out. And you might have even seen it in one of my videos. I did break out around this area. And these are skin reactions that are allergic reactions or immune function reactions. So I'm sitting here and I'm like, well, the only thing that's changed is those two things. I fell into that nasty ass water, which did take, some probably compromised me a bit, and gone on the carnivore diet. So I cannot, in good conscience, even if I make it the full 30 days, I am considering ending the experiment early and starting it over again at some point and just going back to ketovore. Just integrate a lot of the keto foods. I'm still not going to go back to leafy greens. I still believe that was a big issue for me. The only benefit that I can report to you is the mood stabilization. I have definitely had a stable mood. Not too happy, not too sad, nothing. It's just a flat line. And I like that. I like being that. No stress. There's reasons to be stressed in my life. I'm not. I don't have severe anxiety. I'm not worried about tomorrow. I should be. So I can report that the mood stabilization from the carnivore diet is a thing. But I cannot say it's the healthiest way to go for me in my personal experiment because there's other variables that could cloud the result. And that's what we need to do in science, is realize, even in our n=1, that we can't just call something good or bad when you can't really rule out all the variables that led to it. So I do want to repeat the carnivore experiment again at some point, not right away. I'm going to spend some time a little more keto, as in allowing in some veg, but not a shit ton, like a little bit more, like mainly in the realm of onions and mushrooms and, some of the things I like. Occasionally some organic spinach, and I'm going to be pretty picky about that. Occasionally some vitamin C rich tomato sauce, which I'm very leery of. I'm going to have to find a more organic version of it because of the glyphosate issue that I do still worry about a lot. So that's pretty much where I'm at with the carnivore experiment. I'm it sucks being sick too. That's why I didn't get the 3 videos done this week that I wanted to get done. I only got this and the other one. Thankfully, they're long-ass videos, and you have some long-ass videos to watch if you haven't already in the links to this video. So, that's where I'm at. And I'm trying to get better before my trip. My trip starts next week, where I go to North Carolina for Carolina Rebellion. I car camp the whole way. I'm going to be traveling, eating on the road, and filming the whole fucking thing and sharing it with you guys. Probably afterwards. I probably won't be able to upload anything during that time period. But I'll do the best I can to see what I can put up from the road. Maybe at the very least, see if I can do some live streaming from my phone or something like that. So that's what I'm at. That's what I'm up to. I do plan on extending the trip and seeing a few other things along the way and stopping to smell the roses, so to speak. Enjoying the warmer, happier weather, hopefully, down there than is up here. It's supposed to be really warm up here, though, too, so it's probably going to be uncomfortably hot down there. But we'll see. And that's what's coming up, next week. I'm going to be starting to gear up to get out there on the road. Probably earlier in the week, I'm going to document my minimalist travel plans, how I plan on sleeping in the car, where I plan on parking, what kinds of things am I going to bring with me to make it more comfortable in there. It's a Prius, so I can run it, the air conditioning, if I need to. How am I going to stealth it up, or, which I'm not really. That's one of the things about, well, I'll get into that when I start talking about that shit. But that's a lifestyle thing. Which is another thing that I work on this channel. But like I said before, I'm not an expert. I'm just an asshole here to share my journey with all of you and hope that you get better. Hope that you can avoid this mess that we're in. Or if you're already got your foot in there, to try and dig your way out of it. And we need to. We do. And if you can watch those videos and not make any changes about your life and just keep doing this unhealthy shit going forward, I don't know that anything I'll ever say will get through to you. Because the writing's on the wall. And while you're watching this, just put it in the context of what you've observed from loved ones that have gotten sick and died in your life, and how it came about, and what the medical industry did and the pharmaceutical industry actually did for those loved ones on their way out. And I think you're going to find that they took a lot of their money and didn't really prolong their life that much. And in fact, probably made them sicker than they actually were. But I'll leave that up to you to decide. I don't know your situations. Have a nice motherfucking day. And I'm sorry I couldn't pump out 3 videos this week. I really wanted to, but I have been bedridden sick. I took 4 naps today before I made this video. Before I was energetic, and you can even hear me being a little stuffy right now. Before I was energetic enough to even sit in front of this fucking camera and set all this shit up, I was also watching a recap of a couple of these lectures. I always do a lot of prep when I get on here. And, I was having trouble and struggling energy-wise too, which could be carnivore, could be sick, could be sick because I went carnivore, or it could be sick because I fell into that nasty-ass water. I don't know. I cannot say one way or another. And neither should you, vegans, who might point at that and say, see, he went carnivore, got sick. Carnivore's bad. If he would have ate plants, he wouldn't have been sick, which you can't say either. So don't start. Don't start in the comments, motherfuckers. All right. Have a nice motherfucking day and shit. I'm going to go back to trying to rest and heal my ass. I don't know how to heal my ass. Apparently going back to keto and having some slightly more flowy shit will heal my ass.